members of the computer science faculty, staff, families, guests, and class of 2024. I'm Dave Sobel, I'm class of 97, and I'm a proud graduate of this department. I need to tell you how excited I am to be here. I'm not the kind of student that expected to be here, and I reflect back on my time as we spent together at computer science night, and I was so impressed by your sharp engagement and insightful questions. It reminded me a lot of my own journey, which, let's say, felt a lot less sharp and insightful. I was a bit of a troublemaker. With the benefit of hindsight, I see my entrepreneurial independence and self-advocacy traits, but I'm sure my professors didn't see it that way at the time. I'm rather lucky that most of mine have all retired and forgotten my reputation. When I graduated, the event was in the basement of SWEM. It was actually a reception. Everyone filed in, mingled, and had drinks. So my stepmother asked, "Well, when is the procession going to happen so that I can see Dave get his diploma?" And a professor told her, well, we don't do that. The students just mingle and we talk, and then they pick them up as they leave. Well, my stepmother, not a particularly tall woman, gets in this professor's face and says, "No, I saw my son walk and get his diploma at UVA, and I saw my daughter walk and get her diploma handed to her at James Madison, and I will see my son walk and be handed his diploma at William & Mary." I have never seen people move as fast as that moment. Sometimes, even as an adult, you still fear the wrath of a parent, anyone's parents. More importantly, it's a lesson that no one will advocate more for you than yourself. My stepmother wanted that picture, and she was gonna get it. You have to advocate for yourself and not be afraid to use the skill of self-promotion. We all have those moments we wish we had spoken up for ourselves. Take a moment. I'm sure you have one that jumps a little too quickly to mind. What do you wish you'd done then? And what will you do to make sure you own that moment next time? Now, when advocating for ourselves sets the stage for success, the journey is enriched and propelled by the relationships that we build. Now, again, I didn't necessarily see this as clearly then as I lived it. In fact, I lived it so much that I was on academic probation for a semester. Besides mostly going to class, I DJ'd at WCWM, I was active in Sigma Mu Sigma fraternity, I worked in the yearbook, I was a campus tour guide, and I made the friendships that continue to enrich my life to this day. We spent our years at William & Mary focused on academic achievement and our future careers. While I firmly believe that the knowledge gained here is foundational to success, don't overlook the people to your left and to your right. As a man in his late 40s, I think a lot about the research that shows it takes more than 200 hours, ideally over 6 weeks, for a stranger to grow into a close friend. As you become focused on jobs and responsibilities, trust me, that 200 hours are going to be a lot harder to find. Deep friendships will also lead you to a healthier life. Study after study proves that those who are connected to friends are more healthy and projected to live longer. The relationships you made here are some of the deepest time commitment ones you will experience in your lifetime. Like me, you probably picked up a lot of these relationships rather by accident. That person you met at the CAF because they knew a hallmate, that one from the radio station, that one from the department. You'll look back and absolutely treasure this time. You won't necessarily remember all the classes. I supposedly took racquetball, but you'll remember the people. You've lived with these friends, with your friends, together with everybody close. one of the magic elements of the experience is that this is the one time you live, play, and work with all your friends in the same physical space. It's about to change. So remember proactively to make those small investments over and over again in your friends. If you make the effort, it grows and it compounds and it gains momentum. You'll get to experience the world together, from marriages, kids, pets, and more. Plus, those friends that you had funny nicknames for in college, you'll look around one day and realize those friends are also chief muckety-muck at companies that people know the names of. Now, this won't happen on its own. So take each moment, each day, to make a small investment. Ask yourself, which friend can I call, FaceTime, send a voice memo, text, rather than spending your time doom scrolling. These relationships not only enrich our lives, they also lead us to opportunities that require us to embrace change and lead and learn new things. And that sets the stage for more learning. Now, when I was a senior at William & Mary, the World Wide Web was a new thing. So much so we called it that. Not everybody had a website. In fact, it was a pretty rare thing for people to have websites, and most websites were built by individual people. I got really fascinated by this idea, and I built this very expansive website on the computer science servers. I launched a reality blog site, getting a bunch of my friends to all write anonymous blogs each week before we even knew what the word blog was. I even won a USA Today award for it. Well, I was hauled into a professor's office who ran the network because I was taking up far more bandwidth than any student. In fact, I'm pretty sure I was taking more bandwidth than all the other students and professors combined. And he wanted to know what I was doing with all that bandwidth. So after explaining all my crazy ideas, the professor looked me dead in the eyes and he said, "Well, maybe you should spend more time on your classes and less on this World Wide Web thing. It's a fad." I still laugh with you on that one. Professors teach you an awful lot, but they're not infallible. I walked out of his office, and instead of spending less time on the web, I promptly bought my first domain and I moved all my content elsewhere. Your professors didn't just teach you about the mechanics of computing. They also instilled into you logic, insight, deduction, and reasoning. And sometimes your insights will be different from theirs. Professors are human too. And so that means they can be wrong. Because everybody's gonna be wrong. Because generally, if somebody's always right, it's because they aren't particularly interesting or bold in their thinking. You gotta be wrong sometimes to get the big ones right. And if you're gonna take those big swings, you gotta be comfortable being wrong. So my interests and instincts proved to be onto something. My experiences, those things, they drove me to continue to pursue the web as a medium. I'm going to tell you, that big website caused me to get recruited for my first job because Phil Wary, who was a fellow graduate of William & Mary, was searching through the students at the college for one to recruit for the company he was working for. And Phil not only recruited me as a systems administrator for a company here in Williamsburg, he also helped me land my first job out of college. And Phil was a dear mentor and friend until his passing, and his advice still echoes in my ears even today. So being my own advocate with an eye to the next interesting thing and knowing my friends had my back led me to a pretty unconventional career for a computer science major. It started a lot like I thought it would. Product and technology development for companies that needed help. First a consulting company, and then a second of what we'd now call a cloud software as a service contract management system. Well, that second one went down in spectacular fashion when on Valentine's Day 2002, they hauled the entire development team in and laid us all off because the company didn't have enough money to keep going. It's obvious to me that my now wife was really into me because she actually said yes to my marriage proposal that night when I had no job. But that started my pivot as I launched my first business then, helping small companies with their technology needs. I was going to make it as an entrepreneur or I'd have to go get a job. And I combined that hard work with a little bit of luck, and I landed our first big customer about a month and a half after starting the business. And I ran that managed services provider for a decade in an industry I still work in. And taking from my lessons from my days here at William & Mary, I got involved in everything. And some of it was just ancillary to the business itself. Not only did I run the business, I got invited to join a peer group. I became a frequent attendee at conferences. Then I started speaking at conferences. I met colleagues. I shared information, became a CompTIA trainer. I wrote that book about virtualization. I became a Microsoft MVP, which is their program for recognizing leaders in the community. I helped launch peer groups in Europe. I just kept getting involved in stuff to keep learning. And I figured if I kept learning, the business would grow. And it did. But more important than the growth was the insights I gathered, discussed, and shared and explored with those colleagues. They came with new relationships as I could help others with problems, and they helped me with mine. I sold that business in 2011, and I went on to lead community events for 2 other software firms, each of which we sold. And after we IPO'd the second one, I was ready for another change, and I launched my current company. It's a media and analysis firm, but it's far more fun to call myself a podcaster and YouTuber. Like, follow, and subscribe to this video, and hit the notification bell if you'd like to get more. As I said, self-promotion is a key skill. So when I look at each of those transitions, like my first job out of college, all my work then has been because of a personal relationship. That spectacular failure company I told you about, I'd worked with the CTO before. My first big customer land, I'd worked with that CEO. My first role after selling my first company, I'd been a customer and they liked working with me. Then I was introduced to the next job after that by a friend who thought I'd be great for it and connected me to the CEO. And today, people take my call and they listen to my podcast because I've invested in people. And the big one, the really big one, the sale of my first company, that deal was done over lunch with the colleagues I'd known for years, who we went out every year just to catch up. Investing in relationships is just as important as investing in money, and you should do both. Make small investments over and over and over again, and you'll watch them grow. So as you leave the Berg for your next big adventures, I want you to remember 3 pillars. Advocate for yourself, cherish and invest in those relationships, and embrace change with a willingness to learn. Those principles have guided me through both successes and failures. And remember, the path to success isn't about never quitting. It's about knowing when to pivot, learning from your experiences, and most importantly, understanding the value of the connections you made along the way. So ask yourself, how will I advocate for myself? How will I invest in relationships? And how will I embrace the change that comes my way? So as you move forward, may you build your own unconventional paths, enriched by the relationships you cherish and the quest for knowledge. And I also hope you'll remember to invest in the relationship we started today by reaching out and telling me all about it. Thank you very much, and go try.
Thanks for listening. I hope you found some value in my words. This is a touch different from my usual content, and if you're checking this out first, I'll ask that you give me a like or a follow to get more of my IT services content and learn more about the delivery of technology in business. My podcast is The Business of Tech, available wherever podcasts are found. And there's more information at businessof.tech. And if you want to support the show, visit patreon.com/mspradio, where you can get my content early. Or if you want to advertise on the show, visit mspradio.com/engage. Thank you again for listening.